Welcome to the Stellar Vault. Say hi in the comments to awaken the archive. Then like, subscribe, and let the tale begin.
The war banners of the Reo Dominion hung stiff and red in the stale air of the command chamber. Zerath Kai stood beneath them, his 4 eyes locked on the star map that shimmered in the dark. Target world, designation Vera 9, rasped one of his aides, her mandibles clicking as she adjusted the glyphs. Population, scattered. Defenses, obsolete. They have no council protections, no treaties, no fleet worth recording. Verani, a small colony clinging to the rim of the Valtheron expanse. The glyphs beside it pulsed with prey signs, low population, thin defenses, no allies. Humans, another aide hissed. The word felt strange on Zerath Kai's tongue. Fragile frames, chaotic metabolisms, short lives. Nothing in them spoke of endurance. Their military records were laughable. Obsolete weapons, irregular fleets, weak fortifications. By every measure, they were prey. And yet, their history told a different story. Colonies rebuilt after disaster. Uprisings crushed only after rivers of blood. Civilizations collapsing only to claw upward again. Always resisting. Always returning. A lesser strategist might have dismissed such a species. Zerath Kai knew better. Prey that refused to bow could still be dangerous. And this species, these humans, puzzled him. Their file was new to the archives, a patchwork of contradictions. Fragile bone, short lives, chaotic minds. Yet everywhere they had been tested, they endured far longer than expected. Storms, famine, rebellion, collapse. Again and again they survived. Prey that did not bow. Prey that wasted a hunter's time. He let his claws drum against the iron dais. Persistence is not strength, he reminded himself. It is only the illusion of it. He had served the Dominion for 2 centuries, long enough to see entire species erased, long enough to know what awaited the unaligned and the unworthy. And this one, this small, blue-sunned colony on the edge of the Valtheron expanse, would be no different. Strategist, an aide rasped. They are outside the Council's sphere, alone. They cannot be reinforced. They are ours. The chamber hissed in approval. The Ryu lived for these hunts. Zerath Kai allowed himself a thin growl of satisfaction. Yes, they were alone. Yes, they would fall. But he would not underestimate them. The lesson of his caste was simple. Prey that resists the hardest exalts the hunter most. Ready the fleet, he said, his voice like iron. By the next tide, Vera 9 will kneel. The aides bowed low. The banners above swayed as if thirsty for new blood. Far above the Dominion, in the high orbits of the Council sphere, the news was already spreading. The chamber of the Galactic Council was a ring of light and silence, its delegates shimmering in their hollow seats. Species older than empires, their forms twisted by centuries of survival. They had learned long ago to survive the Reo, not through valor, but through treaties, pacts, and endurance. A transmission scrolled across the chamber floor. Dominion fleet movement toward unaligned world. Designation, Vera 9. Inhabitants, human. The delegates whispered in a dozen tongues. New species. Primitive. Not yet in the sphere. Not our concern. Only one voice raised in protest, the Ithori delegate, her form rippling with translucent wings. If the Rao devour them, the Dominion grows stronger. Should we not intervene? The reply was immediate, cold and unanimous. They are not members. Intervention would break the accords. Let the prey face their own fate. The chamber dimmed again. The Council turned away. For the humans of Vera 9, there would be no aid. Night fell over the colony. Commander Kyle Stravos, known to his people as the Shield of Vera, stood on the ramparts of the colony's bastion, the wind sharp against his face. Below him stretched the lights of the settlement, scattered but alive. Miners, farmers, workers moving through their routines, unaware of the shadow gathering in the stars. Stravos knew. He always knew. His command chair waited inside the bastion. His officers stood ready at their posts. But he remained on the wall a moment longer, watching. The sky here was clear, the stars sharp against the dark. He could almost see them moving, cold lines of metal sliding across the void, closer every hour. "Sir." A voice behind him. Captain Dreven, one of his chosen deputies. "Long-range sensors confirm. Multiple warforms inbound." Ray W. signature. Stravos did not turn. His jaw clenched once, then released. "Sound the alert," he said. His voice was calm, steady as bedrock. "Civilian bunkers first, defense batteries second. Fleet to high orbit." No hesitation. Draven hesitated. "Council?" Stravos turned then, his eyes hard. "The Council will do nothing. This is ours to fight." The captain bowed his head. "Yes, sir." Stravos looked back to the stars. His people depended on him, not only to lead, but to prepare. Every officer he had chosen himself. Every post had a shadow, every role a replacement. If he fell, the line would hold. If they fell, another would rise. That was his law. No one man saved humanity. Humanity saved itself. The stars flickered again. He felt it in his bones. The Reo were coming. Kyle Stravos, the Shield of Vera, whispered into the dark. If they came looking for prey, they chose the wrong world. The 7th Spear Fleet tore through the void like a pack of predators scenting blood. Their hulls glimmered in the light of Vera's pale sun, iron and obsidian, each one marked with the crimson glyphs of conquest. Zerath Kai stood in the command spire of his flagship, claws folded behind his back. He felt the familiar rhythm of war thrumming in the deck plates beneath his feet, the low vibrations of engines and weapons primed for slaughter. Around him, his aides chittered in ritual cadence, their mandibles clicking in the ancient call of the hunt. Another prey world, another lesson in Dominion supremacy. "Orbit achieved," rasped his navigator. "No Council signatures detected. Colony defenses obsolete." The chamber hissed with satisfaction. Zerath Kai's gaze lingered on the star map projection. The colony glittered below, a fragile outpost of lights scattered across a dark world. So small, so defenseless. The prey should already be fleeing into their burrows. Yet the scans showed movement at their batteries, energy surging in their primitive guns, preparing to resist. He narrowed his secondary eyes. They know what comes, yet they do not scatter. "Foolishness," one of his warcast captains growled. "It will make their deaths slower." "Or," Zerath Kai murmured, "it will make their deaths sharper. Ready the descent." The command rippled through the fleet. Hatches opened, warforms stirred, armored Ryu poured into their dropships, weapons gleaming, their voices a guttural chant. Dominion eternal, prey eternal, blood eternal. The 7th Spear began its fall. On the surface of Vera 9, the alarm klaxons howled. Commander Kyle Stravos strode into the bastion's command hall, his heavy boots echoing on the iron floor. Around him, officers scrambled, voices overlapping as reports flooded in. Multiple warforms inbound. Confirmed Reo signature. Civilians are moving to bunkers. Sector 5 reporting delays. Orbital batteries charging. Awaiting fire solution. Stravos raised one hand, and silence snapped across the hall. His eyes swept over the officers he had chosen, each one hand-picked, each one trained with a shadow to replace them. If any fell, the line would not break. That was his law. "Begin orbital fire," he said. "Fighter wings to high orbit. Defense grids to full power. No hesitation." The officers moved at once. Stravos stood at the center, calm as stone, watching the storm descend. He felt the weight of every soul in the colony pressing on his shoulders, but he did not flinch. He had been given this burden because he could bear it. The first thunder shook the bastion as rail bombardment struck the outer perimeter. The walls groaned but held. Seconds later, the colony's guns answered. Primitive, outdated, but alive with fire. On the star map above, one of the Reo dropships blinked out of existence, torn apart by a lucky strike. The command hall roared. Stravos only nodded once. Good. Make them pay for every meter. The Rao descent was not the slaughter they expected. Dropships tore through the sky, streaks of iron fire, but the humans met them with ground batteries and improvised missiles. One fell flaming into the hills. Another was ripped apart midair, scattering blackened fragments across the colony plains. On the ground, Reo warriors advanced in their black armor, towering over the humans, weapons hissing plasma fire. Yet the prey did not flee. Miners armed with rifles dug into trenches. Farmers crouched behind barricades, firing until their hands blistered. Old tanks, barely holding together, rolled into the streets to block the advance. Every block was a fortress. Every street was a kill zone. The Reo pressed forward with disciplined fury, but the humans fought like cornered beasts. Grenades rolled beneath warsuits. Improvised mines ripped holes in armored columns. And when ammunition ran out, they fought with knives, with hammers, with bare hands. It was not war by Dominion standards. It was chaos. It was madness. And it bled the raw. Zerath Kai watched the battle unfold from orbit, his claws drumming slowly against the iron dais. His war-cast captains growled in frustration as the casualty glyphs flickered red across the holomap. "They should have broken by now," one snarled. "They are vermin," hissed another. "They waste our strength." Zerath Kai silenced them with a single glance. His voice was calm, almost curious. "Their technology is primitive. Their fortifications are obsolete. Yet they resist us longer than species with fleets 10 times their size." "Why?" No one answered. He leaned closer to the map, watching the shifting lines of human resistance. They did not retreat in the face of overwhelming fire. They closed ranks. They counterattacked. Every death drove the survivors harder. "Persistence is not strength," he muttered, remembering his own warning. But even as he said it, he felt the unease twist in his chest. Persistence could still kill. On the ground, Kale Stravos moved with his men. Smoke and fire choked the colony's streets, the air stinking of plasma and blood. Yet Stravos walked among the defenders without hesitation, his voice steady, his presence unshakable. Soldiers saluted even as they reloaded. Civilians straightened when he passed. He stopped at a barricade where a squad held back a Reo push. Half their number lay dead, but the line had held. Stravos knelt beside the sergeant, a young man with blood streaking his face. "You did well," Stravos said. "We're still here," the sergeant rasped. Stravos clasped his shoulder. "And you'll stay here until they learn what it means to face us." The sergeant grinned through the blood. "Yes, sir." Another thunderclap shook the ground. Somewhere, a Reo warform exploded, torn apart by human artillery fire. Cheers rose across the defense line. For the first time, the Reo faltered. Hours passed. The colony burned. The streets were littered with the dead, but the humans still stood. Zerath Kai's aides circled him with nervous hisses. Losses mounted, more than any prey world had ever inflicted in a first strike. A Dominion warship crippled. Thousands of warriors dead. Dropships scattered in flaming wreckage across the plains. The strategist stared at the holomap, silent. His claws tapped the dais in measured rhythm. At last, he spoke. They fight like vermin, but they do not die like vermin. He turned to his captains, eyes glinting cold. We will adapt, and they will fall. But this prey is no simple quarry. They are something else. Dawn bled across Vera 9. Kyle Stravos stood once more on the bastion walls, smoke curling into the morning sky. His eyes swept the battlefield. Ruined streets, broken tanks, burning wrecks. His people had bled. Hundreds lay dead. But the colony still lived. Behind him, Draven approached, exhausted but standing. We held, sir. Stravos nodded. His jaw was set, his eyes hard. We bled, he said quietly, but we didn't bow. He looked once more to the stars, where the Reo fleet still lingered. They thought us prey. Now they'll learn the lesson. The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with false light. 1,000 holo-seats glowed in the endless ring, each filled with the projection of a species too ancient to bleed, too cautious to act. The air was thick with whispers. Vera Ni, a colony outside the sphere. Humans. Glyphs scrolled across the floor. Dominion fleet engaged. Casualties higher than forecast. Resistance greater than expected. The delegates shifted uneasily. Primitive, one voice murmured. Fragile, said another. Yet the Ryu bleed. The Athari spread her translucent wings, light refracting through her body like a living prism. Her voice was clear, sharp. If they can wound the Dominion, they matter. If they endure, they deserve a seat in this chamber. The reply was a chorus of cold denial. They are not members. They are unaligned. They are prey. Silence fell again, heavy as stone. And in that silence, the galaxy made its choice, to look away, to let the Reo devour, to leave the humans alone. High above Vera 9, aboard the Dominion flagship, Zerath Kai read the casualty glyphs with narrowed eyes. Red streaked the holomap, where green should have been. Dropships destroyed, ground forces shattered, even one of his warships crippled by prey artillery. By prey. Around him, captains hissed and snarled, demanding vengeance, demanding fire to scour the colony clean. Zerath Kai silenced them with a single raised claw. His voice was calm, measured. The prey resist. They bleed more than they should. But they will break. Inside, he felt something colder. Not fear. Raud did not fear prey. But curiosity. Humans fought with obsolete weapons, outdated ships, crude fortifications. Yet every strike only seemed to sharpen them. Every casualty stiffened their lines. He remembered the ancient words of the hunt. Prey that resists hardest exalts the hunter most. His mandibles clicked once, a sound like stone grinding against stone. We will return. We will finish them. On the ground, smoke still curled over Vera 9. The colony had survived the first blow, but its streets were scarred, its air heavy with the stink of blood and plasma. Commander Kyle Stravos walked the wreckage with steady steps, his coat scorched, his eyes unyielding. Around him, scavenger crews worked with ruthless efficiency. Strip it all, Stravos ordered. Every plate, every shard, every core. They obeyed without hesitation. Miners pried open cracked Reo armor with drills and torches. Engineers dragged gutted plasma rifles across the rubble. Children carried scavenged fragments to the waiting carts. The dead were buried with one hand, and the enemy dismantled with the other. At the edge of the square, a downed Reo dropship lay smoking. Sparks showered as teams cut through its hull. Inside, humming power cores flickered with alien light. "Careful," barked one engineer. "Even broken, this thing could fry half the block." Another voice answered, breathless with awe. "Or power the whole colony." Stravos stepped closer. The interior stank of burned flesh and machine oil. He laid his hand on the alien plating, feeling the heat through his glove. It was not human. It was not theirs. Yet now it would be. "Catalog everything," he said. "Run it through the labs. If it hums, if it sparks, if it kills, we learn it." Draven, his captain, hesitated beside him. "Sir, we don't have the knowledge for this. Not yet." Stravos turned, eyes sharp. "Then we'll make the knowledge." He looked back at the wreckage, at the glow of alien energy captured in human hands. The Reo had come to kill them. Instead, they had delivered tools. "If they brought us the knife," Stravos murmured, "we'll teach ourselves to swing it." Night deepened over Vera 9. Fires dimmed. The wounded slept. The dead were laid to rest. And in the shadow of burning streets, humanity began to adapt. Far above, the Council turned its gaze elsewhere. In orbit, Zerath Kai sharpened his plans. On the ground, Kael Stravos and his people pulled knowledge from the bones of their enemy. 3 powers moved now. 1 blind, 1 arrogant, 1 awakening. The next blood would not be so simple. The signal came at dusk. At first it was dismissed as background noise, a pulse hidden in the static of the void. But the humans on Vera 9 had learned not to ignore anomalies. Stravos ordered the fragments pulled apart, every whisper and echo dissected. What emerged was not Reu, not Council, not any frequency they had cataloged before. It was alive. The message unfolded like a ripple of breath across water, light woven into sound. And when the pattern finally clarified, the humans stood in silence at its beauty. "We are the Ilithari. We saw you bleed the Dominion and remained standing. We are a Pacific people, tolerated by the Council, ignored by the Dominion. But we have watched. We know the Reo's hunger. We know what they will do to you, and we would see them denied." The voice shimmered with layered tones, each phrase like a chord struck on glass. Stravos listened without blinking. His officers shifted, uncertain, an alien race, reaching out across the dark. The message continued. "Our gifts are small, cloaks of shadow, shields of silence. We are no warriors. But in your hands, perhaps they may be. And if you wish to endure, there is another. The Kadron. They despise the Dominion, though they trust no one. Convince them, and your colony may yet have a chance." The transmission ended in a cascade of light, like a prism dissolving into shadow. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Stravos turned, his face unreadable. "Find them," he ordered. "Everything we have. Languages, customs, history. I want their patterns broken, their codes mapped, their weaknesses turned into doors. If the Ilithari say they can be reached, then we will reach them." The room erupted into motion. Engineers, miners, teachers, even children began pulling every scrap of archived data on the Kydron. What the Council had dismissed as trivial, their music, their rituals, their mathematics, humans devoured. Within hours, Vera's labs burned with light. Code strings filled every wall. Symbols looped into patterns, equations into sequences. The Kydron spoke not in words, but in plasma. Mathematics wrapped around meaning, elegant but cold. And then, as the night deepened, the first line cracked open. The voice that answered was low and resonant, a cavernous thunder. "Humans, you are reckless. Your colony is ash waiting to happen. Why do you seek us?" The chamber went still. Stravos stepped forward, his shadow long against the flickering screens. "We don't seek your pity," he said. "We seek your knowledge. You hate the rail. So do we. That's enough." There was a pause, long and heavy. Then the rumble came again. "We do not fight. We survive. The Rio cannot be stopped." Stravos's jaw clenched. His officers watched him, waiting. He leaned close to the transmitter, his voice hard as iron. "Unstoppable? Then explain this. Your records show them burning your colonies, enslaving your kin, and still you live. If they cannot be stopped, then why are you still here?" The silence cracked, a flicker of static. "You endure because you hide," Stravos pressed on. "We endure because we fight. Alone, you will fade. With us, you can end them." The code shivered, long equations spilling like blood. Finally, they collapsed into a single phrase. "We will hear you." When the connection closed, Stravos turned to his officers. His voice was steady, his eyes sharp. "The Ilithari give us stealth, the Kadron give us fire, and we give them war. Together, we build something the Rio have never seen." Around him, exhausted men and women nodded. The path ahead was narrow, perilous, but it was a path. In the quiet of the bastion, Stravos whispered to himself, not in triumph, but in grim certainty. "They thought us alone. Let's teach them how wrong they were." The 7th Spear Fleet returned to Vera 9 like a shadow blotting out the stars. Their hulls burned red in the sunlight, fresh with the glyphs of vengeance. In the command spire, Zerath Kai stood in silence, 4 eyes locked on the prey world below. His captains paced around him, mandibles clattering with hunger. "This time, strategist, we strike without hesitation. No probing, no tests. We descend and erase." Another hissed, claws raking the air. "The colony will be ash before the tide changes. There will be no lesson, only slaughter." Zerath Kai let them speak. His claws tapped a slow rhythm against the iron dais. His secondary eyes never left the projection of the human colony. "They resisted once," he murmured. "That was not an accident. This time, we measure their true capacity." The captains hissed in frustration, but they obeyed. Orders rippled through the fleet. Dropships armed, destroyers primed their guns, warforms prepared their chants. Dominion eternal, prey eternal, blood eternal. The words shook the hull. The hunt had begun again. On Vera 9, the alarm sirens wailed once more, but this time the colony did not tremble. In the command bastion, Commander Kale Stravos watched the descending icons with a calm expression. His officers leaned forward, tense, awaiting his command. "Positions," he said simply. Around the colony, bunkers sealed. Defense lines shimmered and vanished. The Ilithari cloaks hummed to life, bending light, wrapping human batteries in silence. Guns that had once been visible from orbit now lay hidden, shadows within shadows. In the forges, plasma cores entrusted by the Kydron burned inside crude human housings. Engineers grafted them into cannons, fighters, even tanks. Sparks flew as human steel bent and screamed, but it held, because that is what humans do. And on the bastion walls, the greatest prize of all, a Reu cannon, torn from a wreck, gutted, rewired, and forced into obedience. Its glow was jagged, unstable, but alive. Stravo stood before it, one hand brushing the scorched plating. "When they come within range," he said softly, "let's remind them what they left behind." The Reo dropships screamed through atmosphere, their black holes glowing red from re-entry. To them, the ground looked quiet, still, defenseless. Then the shadows opened fire. Invisible batteries erupted with plasma bolts, tearing through the first wave of dropships before they even reached the ground. Shattered wrecks fell like burning meteors, crashing into the plains. Fighters streaked upward from hidden hangars, their engines screaming with stolen Reo thrusters. The Dominion's own technology propelled crude Terran hulls into impossible maneuvers, diving and rolling through enemy formations. One fighter slammed headlong into a Reo corvette, its plasma-rigged cannons firing until both ship and pilot were consumed in light. The sky became chaos. In orbit, glyphs flared red across Zirath Kai's holomap. Losses, massive, immediate. His captain snarled, mandibles rattling with disbelief. They cloak their guns. They strike from shadows. This is no prey, it is treachery. Zirath Kai's claws tightened on the dais. His voice was low, dangerous. "Look closer." On the projection, one glyph blinked, then flared. A Rao destroyer, split in half by a single beam. Its core detonated, scattering fire across the void. But the signature of the weapon, it was Rao. Zirath Kai's mandibles ground together. "That is ours." Another flash. A cannon on the surface roared, its energy discharge unmistakable. Dominion design, Dominion power, wrenched from their own wreckage and turned against them. "They broke it," Zirath Kai whispered. His claws cut grooves into the iron dais. "They remade it. They dared?" For the first time in centuries, he felt something close to awe. On the surface, Stravo strode along the battlements as the Rao cannon fired again, tearing through another dropship mid-descent. His men cheered, their voices hoarse, their eyes blazing. Civilians poured from bunkers, dragging fresh ammunition, hauling wreckage into cover. Engineers ran among the lines, checking connections, coaxing unstable cores to hold for one more shot. Losses were almost non-existent. A few burned, a few bleeding, but no mass graves, no broken lines. The people of Vera 9 stood unshaken. Stravos raised his voice, steady and calm above the roar. "They thought us blind. They thought us weak. Today they learn otherwise. Hold your fire steady. Make every shot the lesson." The cannon roared again. The lesson burned into the sky. In the command spire, chaos erupted. "Strategist, we lose too many. Our warforms burn in their dropships." Zirath Kai's 4 eyes locked on the world below. His mandibles clicked once, twice, sharp as blades. "Withdraw," he said at last. The chamber froze. His captains hissed in outrage. "Withdraw? From prey? They shame us. They defile our weapons." Zirath Kai turned slowly, his gaze silencing them. His voice was cold iron. "They are no prey. Not anymore." The 7th Spear Fleet pulled back, wounded, broken, their chants silenced. Wreckage trailed behind them like torn banners. On Vera 9, the people stood amid the smoke and fire, victorious. Children laughed in the streets, clutching fragments of shattered Dominion metal as trophies. The wounded were few, the dead fewer still. In the command bastion, Stravos leaned against the railing, watching the sky clear of enemy ships. Around him, his officers exhaled in relief, smiles breaking across exhausted faces. But Stravos did not smile. His voice was steady, his gaze unyielding. "The Dominion knows now," he said quietly, "and he will return with all he has." The chamber of the Galactic Council had grown heavy with silence. The glyphs of war had been ignored too many times. The whispers repeated until they turned hollow. Yet this day, the silence shattered. The Athari delegate rose from her hollow seat, her crystalline wings unfurled wide. Light bent through her translucent body, scattering prisms across the chamber walls. Her voice was clear, layered, ringing with the sound of truth. We speak for our people. The Rayu devour worlds, and this council closes its eyes. Now a new people rises from the dark, standing where we once stood, alone, preyed upon, dismissed. Yet they endure. They bleed, and still they endure. Her wings rippled like glass in fire. If you will not act, then we will. We withdraw from this chamber. The Athari will stand with the humans. The chamber erupted. 1,000 voices hissed, shouted, clashed in fury. Violation of the Accords. Suicide. Foolish sentiment. But the Athari wings beat once, casting light like spears across the ring. Her words silenced the uproar. We would rather die with courage than live in cowardice. The council may hide. We will not. Her seat dimmed. Her form vanished. And for the first time in a millennium, a council member had walked away. High above Vera 9, the Dominion fleet lingered like a black crown around the world. Zirath Kai stood in the command spire, eyes fixed on the prey colony below. His losses burned in his memory, his captains restless with rage. But he did not move. He had not moved since the last battle. The humans scavenged his wrecks with impunity, building new weapons from his dead. He had watched them do it. He had reported to the Dominion High Caste, and in return, more fleets had been dispatched, dark reinforcements now folding into orbit. His banner grew heavier each day. Dozens of ships now answered his call. Yet still, he did not strike. Not yet. Patience, he told himself. Patience was the sharpest claw. His aides hissed at his side. Strategist, why wait? Their defenses are crude. Their allies weak. The next descent will break them. Zirath Kai's mandibles clicked softly. If they are prey, they must break. If they do not break, his eyes narrowed, cold and unblinking. Then they are not prey. On the ground, Commander Kale Stravos felt the weight of the orbiting fleets pressing like thunder above him. Each day, more Rayo ships shadowed the skies. Each day, the colony prepared for death. But the people did not bow. Children learned to strip alien rifles. Farmers hauled plasma cores into workshops. Teachers taught mathematics by day and encryption by night. The Ilithari cloaks shielded the colony. The Cadron cores powered their forges, and every human hand bent metal, soldered wires, or dug trenches. When Stravos walked the streets, no one asked if they would survive. They asked only, when? His answer was always the same. When they come, we stand. The day came with no warning. The Dominion fleet stirred, dropships swarming to life, warforms chanting their guttural creeds. Dominion eternal, prey eternal, blood eternal. But before the first strike descended, the void itself rippled. The Athari fleet emerged from shadow, ships of crystal and light, their wings spanning like refracted rainbows. They formed a living wall between Vera 9 and the Dominion guns, their weapons glowing with energies the Council had long forbidden them to wield. With them came the Ilithari, sleek, cloaked vessels, their hulls alive with pulsing biotech, sliding into place like predators in the dark. And the Kydron, stout ships burning with plasma energy, engines glowing like miniature suns, their fear overcome at last by purpose. Together, they joined the humans below, their message clear. Vera was no longer alone. In the spire, Zerath Kai's chamber erupted in fury. Betrayal! 3 races stand with prey. Strike now, before they form lines! But Zerath Kai only watched. His claws tapped once, twice, against the iron dais. His eyes gleamed with cold fire. "Silence!" he hissed. On the holomap, the human colony glowed beneath a shield of crystal and shadow and flame. To descend now would not be a hunt. It would be slaughter, for both sides. He would bleed the Dominion's banners white for a single prey world. He would risk shame, not victory, and that he would not do. "Hold the fleet," he commanded, his voice cut like glass. "Transmit." His words carried into the void, translated into the crude tongue of prey. "Humans, you have fought. You have endured. You have allies. The Dominion will allow this world to stand for now. Your strength has been measured. Your resolve noted. One day we will return. Until then, live with the memory that we spared you." His captains snarled in disbelief. His aides hissed, but none dared challenge him. The 7th spear withdrew, banners dark, leaving Vera untouched for the first time. On the ground, cheers shook the streets. Civilians poured from bunkers, lifting their arms to the sky as Allied ships passed overhead. Children cried the names of the Ilithari, the Kadron, the Ithari, calling them saviors, calling them brothers. But Stravos did not cheer. From the bastion walls, he watched the Reo retreat, his jaw clenched. "He yields nothing," he said quietly to Drivan. "This is no mercy. This is calculation. He will return when the balance tilts." The captain swallowed. "Then we use the time." Stravos nodded. His eyes lifted to the Allied fleets above, gleaming in crystal, shadow, and flame. "For the first time," he said, "we are not alone. Let's make it count." Far above, in the darkened spire, Zerath Kai stood watching, his fleets drawing back, but his eyes never leaving the world below. His voice was a whisper only he could hear. They are no longer prey. They are the lesson. The chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so loud. Whispers swirled like storms, overlapping until the ring shook with 1,000 voices. Glyphs spilled across the floor, reports of the impossible, recorded in cold light. The Dominion had withdrawn. The prey world endured. The Ithari had abandoned the Council. Delegates hissed, shouted, flared their wings, or rattled their limbs. Some called it betrayal. Some called it madness. But no one could deny what the glyphs showed. The humans of Vera still lived. One voice, sharp and venomous, cut through the noise. "This cannot be tolerated. If a primitive species may wield Dominion fire, then no law of survival holds." Another voice hissed agreement. "They are dangerous. They must be contained before they spread." A third voice, quieter, uncertain, or "admitted." The uproar swelled. Admitted? Prey. Impossible. Through it all, the Council's presiding voice echoed cold and steady. Order. At last, silence fell. The presiding delegate's form shimmered in its hollow seat, ancient and vast. The Dominion has been checked, for now. The humans are unaligned, unbound by the Accords. Yet their survival against the Wraith cannot be dismissed. Therefore, the chamber held its breath. We extend invitation. Humanity may join this council, and with membership, gain the protection of the sphere. The words rang like stone dropped in water. Whispers rippled outward. Some shouted, some cursed, but none could deny it. A new seat was offered. The transmission reached Vera within hours. In the Bastion's hall, officers gathered around the projection. The chamber flickered with the Council's pale light. Stravos stood at the center, arms folded. He listened without expression as the message played. The Council's arrogance wrapped in diplomacy, their disdain hidden beneath formality. When it ended, the holo froze, then dissolved into static silence. Captain Draven exhaled slowly. They want us to sit among them. Murmurs spread. Some faces glowed with pride, others with suspicion. Stravos's eyes were hard as stone. They offer not out of respect. They offer out of fear. Fear of what we proved. He stepped closer to the projector, his shadow falling across the glyphs of the Council. We will accept. Relief flickered across faces, but Stravos's voice did not soften. On one condition. The officers froze. Stravos's gaze was unyielding. The Ilithari and the Kydran stood with us when no one else did. They gave us their hands when the galaxy turned its back. If we rise, they rise. Admit them, or we walk. The chamber fell silent behind him. No one argued. No one doubted. Every officer stood steady, eyes fixed forward, as if their own resolve were drawn from his. For they trusted their shield of Vera. They will accept, Stravos added, because they have no choice. Better to choke on our demand than face us as enemies. His voice was iron, his jaw set. Record it. Send it. The Council erupted again when the demand arrived. Unacceptable. They are weak. The Ilithari are cowards, the Kydran fearful. Light shimmered as the Ithari delegate, wings of crystal, rose once more. Her voice rang clear, scattering rainbows across the chamber walls. They are not weak. They are not cowards. They are simply different from you. She spread her wings, filling the chamber with refracted fire. When the Rove came, none of you stood. But they did. Humanity did. Together, they defied the Dominion. If they are prey, then prey has surpassed you all. Her words silenced the uproar. The presiding delegate's voice returned, cold but shaken. The Council has never admitted 3 races at once. Stravos's transmission flickered alive in the chamber. His face was cut from stone, his eyes unblinking. His voice was low, calm, deadly. Admit us all, or lose us all. The silence was long, heavy, suffocating. And then, one by one, the seats shifted. The protests fell quiet. The votes turned. The decision was made. Humanity entered the Council. So did the Ilithari. So did the Kydran. The chamber itself seemed changed. The old order cracked. The accords bent. For the first time in living memory, the balance of the galaxy had shifted, and it would never shift back. On Vera, the people filled the streets, not only with cheers of victory, though there were many, but with something deeper. Pride, unity, resolve. Children painted the glyphs of their new allies beside human banners. Miners carved the rail wreckage into monuments. Teachers spoke of the day when Earth itself would hold a seat in the stars. From the Bastion balcony, Stravos watched them. His officers stood at his side, their faces alight with the glow of a future no one had believed possible. Draven turned to him, eyes wide. "Sir, we've done it. We're no longer alone." Stravos's gaze was steady, his voice firm. "We were never just fighting for ourselves. We were fighting to prove a truth the galaxy had forgotten." He turned his eyes skyward, to the endless dark where the Dominion still lurked. "The prey you dismissed today is the predator that will end you tomorrow."